I had a vision for what I wanted my life to look like, and I let 10 years pass me by before I actually started showing up for it. Last week, I shared what the real gap was, and it's not laziness, discipline, or time. Today, I'm going to be sharing the 3 things that helped me close the gap. Hey there, I'm Anna, and on this channel, we help each other redesign our lives from the inside out through sovereignty, sacred strategy, and doing work that we love. It's been quite a while since my last video. So many things have happened. Family emergency, I moved cross country, but I'm here now and I'm so excited to share this with you. Before I mention the 3 things, I just want to name something. I know that discipline is having a moment right now. Atomic Habits, it's a book that is beloved by so many people and honestly is a great book. It has a lot of value. Discipline and aligned habits are genuinely helpful. I'm not here to argue that. But I want to say something that may ruffle a few feathers with love and zero intention to offend. Discipline and habits will not close this gap. Not when the gap is fear. Not when the gap is feeling unworthy. Not when the gap is waiting for permission that you've never given yourself. A new habit won't increase your sense of worth. More discipline won't dissolve a fear that lives in your nervous system. Something deeper is needed for that. The first thing that I did is what I like to call befriending your demons. A more clinical term would be shadow work. And shadow work can be done in many different ways. It doesn't have to be super intense and scary, but it is still deep work. It's about witnessing all aspects of yourself, including the aspects that live in the shadow. The ones you haven't addressed, the ones that you may not even be aware of, the ones that you and maybe even society have shunned. And I like to take it a step further and not just witness those aspects, but actually befriend them because they're still you. And in my experience, until you call all of you back into yourself, you are leaking power that you could be using to build a life that you want. Here's how this showed up for me with money. When my husband and I faced our $80,000 worth of debt, we came up with a plan, developed a system, hired someone to help us, and I still kept making purchases that sabotaged our progress. When I identified the gap, I realized that I feared being debt-free. I feared what that actual freedom would actually mean. So I did shadow work, and what came up stopped me cold. There was an aspect of me, still me, just not reconciled, that saw her value in overcoming poverty, overcoming financial hardship, overcoming in general. That aspect of me believed that resilience was the source of my worth. And in order to stay worthy, she had to stay in hardship. So she would create, get out of debt a certain amount, and then she would destroy, make a huge purchase that would put her back in the red. She did this over and over again, not out of failure, but out of desperate need to preserve her value. When I witnessed this aspect of myself, I let her share her experience, her perspective, and then I befriended her. We together released that belief. If you want me to make a video on how I approach shadow work, let me know in the comments. I will definitely make it. That deserves its own video. Step 2, identify a repeatable aligned action. Once you've done shadow work, there's going to be a lot more lightness in your energy. You're going to have more clarity. You're going to be more attuned with your intuition. That's when step 2 becomes possible. Identify one repeatable aligned action. Not a habit stack, not a whole system. One action that the version of you that's already living the life that you want takes consistently. Something that moves the needle in this physical world, but also starts to alchemize your identity, slowly shifting you into alignment. Taking that action consistently does 2 things. It magnetizes that vision while you build it, and it reveals any remaining aspects of yourself that aren't ready yet, so that you can go and do some shadow work on those aspects as well. I want to share a vulnerable example of how this showed up for me. And I want to offer a trigger warning first. This story involves a man touching me inappropriately as a child. If you're not in a resource place to hold something like that right now, please honor that and just skip this part. I'll let you know when it's done. I've been in a bigger body most of my life. When I was around 9 years old, I was living in Colombia with my grandmother. I had just joined the gym to be more active. I remember seeing a man watching the aerobics class, which is what I was doing at that time, from afar, but I didn't think anything of it. A few weeks later, my grandmother and I were walking to my friend's house. We were gonna go to a water park that day, and it was really early. The streets were pretty lonely. I felt a hand on my body. It was him. I wanted to scream and say something, but I was so scared that he would hurt my grandmother, that he would hurt me, so I kept silent. I share this because when I did shadow work around my relationship with my body and weight, this came up. There was an aspect of me that connected starting to lose weight with attracting this kind of experience. I know and knew that that day was not my fault, but that aspect of me was still blaming herself somehow, still doing everything to stay big, almost like a layer of protection. Once I witnessed her and did step one with her, I was able to start my one aligned action: walking. Because walking to my friend's house as a 9-year-old girl had been one of the worst experiences of my life, I decided to rebuild my relationship with feeling safe with walking. My daily aligned action of hitting a specific step goal is not only aligned with the version of me that's healthy and strong, but it also invites that younger aspect of me to have a different experience with walking, to know that she did nothing wrong, to feel safe in her body. I was hitting around 1,500 steps a day. And slowly over like several months, like 7-8 months, I was able to work up my step count to around 8,500. My LDL normalized, which it had gone up the previous year, and my body composition had shifted significantly. I'm still lifting heavy, getting stronger, and walking. There was also an experience with my doctor that really helped lock things in even further. But I don't think I would have been ready to receive that and to lock in that way unless I had already done this work. We are past the sensitive part of the story. The point is, find one action that is aligned with your vision, but also invites the scared aspects of you to feel safe. Start smaller than you think you need to, and then build. The third step is what I call flirting with your edge. What is the thing that makes you the most uncomfortable? The experience that keeps triggering the self-sabotage. Is it sharing your art? Using your voice, applying for a role that maybe you don't have all the qualifications for yet? Every year I choose a word or phrase to guide me, something I lean into and let teach me. This year, my phrase is sacred change. Change is deeply uncomfortable for me in every area of my life. It does not feel safe. It creates a lot of anxiety, a lot of emotions, and it honestly slows me down. When change happens, I feel so unsafe that I stop taking action until I can regulate. But as we can see with what's happening in the world right now, change is not in our control. It is always happening. And if I want my life to look and feel different, then by definition, I want change. Change must take place in order to alchemize our lives. So I decided to flirt with my edge, to lean in a little at a time. When someone was rude to me and my automatic response was to assert myself immediately, I instead paused, reflected, asked myself if this person was actually being rude or am I in some kind of mood. I also started to talk to people more. I have introvert tendencies, but I've been wanting more connection and community. So I've been talking to people more, making friends, something that's a little bit hard for me, to be honest. I changed my relationship with food. I started to cook more, learn the things that I enjoy, that I don't actually enjoy, that I would not eat regardless of how healthy it is. Flirting with your edge is not a 1 day or 1 week experience. It's a slow and intentional lean. You take your time, you notice, you breathe, and then you lean a little bit more. The same way I spent so much time preparing for my vision, looked up and 10 years had passed, I started taking action, stayed present with the process, and then looked back and I had shown up for myself more than I had ever in the past. I showed up for my life, for my work, for my body, for my relationships. It feels different now. It's still effort, but not burnout. It's still intentional, but feels freeing. That's what closing the gap actually feels like. If you want support doing this work, identifying the vision, naming the gap, and finding your aligned action, my Sacred Strategy Clarity Intensive is a one-on-one 60-minute session where we do exactly that together. Link is in the description if you're interested. And if the money gap resonated specifically, I created a sacred money ritual where it provides a structured practice for you to do that deep work, and the link is in the description. Thank you so much for being here. This one was a vulnerable one to share, and I'm guessing it was a vulnerable one to receive. I just moved cross country, having family emergency, and it's been a lot, but I am so glad that I'm back. I'm so glad that I'm here connecting with you, and thank you so much for being here. Next week, I'm going to be sharing my own sacred strategy for this season. So what it looks like right now for me across my life, around money, work, health, and relationships. That's going to be a personal one. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you next time.